2024 MLB World Champion Dodgers. And now, here's your host, W.E.S.T.
Yo, what up, what up? It's another Saturday, another episode of the W.E.S.T podcast where we talk wrestling, entertainment, sports, and travel. Of course, I am your host, W.E.S.T. Blessed to be here with y'all. About to break it down. First of all, I want to start out by saying congratulations to the NBA World Champion Knicks. It seems like a feel-good story, and pretty much everybody is New York. Everybody's feeling New York right now. So shouts out to all my friends and family that's from New York. Y'all finally got it. Took 53 years, but enjoy it, celebrate it. It was just last week, but it seems like forever ago now. As the World Cup starts and the World Cup continues on and everything. Not to mention, since we do wrestling here, the NBA playoffs this year was heavily connected to wrestling and one particular wrestler, specifically Danhausen. Now, for those of you that don't know, Danhausen is a wrestler / character in the WWE. Wrestling fans will know of Danhausen because he's been around for a while. He's basically a smaller, skinny wrestler that he doesn't wrestle much. Like I said, he's more of a comedy character guy who paints his face. He looks like kind of like Kiss, acts like a Dracula kind of guy. His catchphrase is he's very nice, very evil. And what his thing is if you rub him the wrong way, get on his bad side, he curses you. And basically, you have bad luck forever unless you're uncursed by Danhausen himself. And the only way Danhausen normally uncurses somebody is by being paid what he calls human monies or favors or something like that. So let's go back to mid-April when Danhausen was a guest on for either First Take or Get Up. But he was being interviewed, or basically he and Stephen A had a back and forth. Stephen A rubbed him the wrong way. So Danhausen cursed Stephen A and the Knicks. And at that time, they were playing the Atlanta Hawks in the Eastern Conference semifinals, or the quarterfinals, I should say. And they ended up in a 2-1 deficit. And then let's go to April 28th. A fan paid Danhausen to do a cameo. And because he paid Danhausen human monies, Danhausen lifted the curse against the Knicks, which sparked, after that, the Knicks came back against the Atlanta Hawks, and they beat them in 6 games, including a 41-game blowout of the Hawks immediately after Danhausen lifted the curse. So after that, they went on to face the Cleveland Cavaliers. Now, at this point, keep in mind, the Knicks were uncursed, so it was even, no bad juju on either team. But forward to mid-May, Danhausen starts beefing with The Miz. Now, The Miz happens to be from Cleveland. So not only does Danhausen curse The Miz, but he ends up cursing the Cavaliers as well. And the Cavaliers get swept by the Knicks. Okay, so in early June, Danhausen basically uncursed the Knicks completely. So they headed into the finals kind of with Danhausen's blessing rather than the curse. And that started the Knicks going up 2-0 over the Spurs, who they were underdogs against, and led to basically the Knicks winning the series against the Spurs and the NBA champions 4-1, and the rest is history. So I know for a fact probably Jalen Brunson, OG Anunoby, Josh Hart, Cat, Karl Anthony Towns, and Mikal Bridges probably won't pay for just about anything ever again in New York. But also Danhausen, I believe he's going to get a ring. He may be, but he also probably will never have to pay for anything else again in New York. So beyond that, let's go ahead and get to the big news of the week.
The big story of the week was this.
Okay, over on NoDQ.com, Aaron Rift has an article regarding recent releases of talent from TNA. Now, the names mentioned in the article are Tommy Dreamer, Tessa Blanchard, and then also included in the releases that weren't mentioned were Sami Callihan, Steve Backlund, and Myla Grace. So Rift, via Pro Wrestling Insider or PWInsider.com, basically reposted or went back to a statement released by Anthem Sports regarding the releases. According to the statement, just to sum it up, it says it is reducing its talent, the number of talents on the payroll, in order to streamline operations and, quote, increase profitability. The article went on to mention Tessa Blanchard by name, saying that they've mutually parted ways, and talked about Tommy Dreamer being behind the scenes on the creative staff, saying that they mutually parted ways. So as far as I know, Tessa Blanchard and Steve Macklin actually asked for their releases. This is from what I read, can't confirm, don't remember the source, but from what I read or saw, that they both requested their releases. Tommy Dreamer actually was on the Busted Open podcast and emotionally addressed his release from TNA. So you could go to the Busted Open podcast with Bully Ray and check that out. So that's pretty much it for the week in wrestling. But there's only one show that will be.
I'm living my best week.
All right. So this is the part of the show where I basically let you know what's going on in and around the world of wrestling, because like I said, wrestling is on just about every night of the week and there's a lot to take in. So if you're just an avid casual fan and you want to know what's going on, just tune into the main event, which normally happens at the last 15 minutes of the show. So I'm going to go over the main events of all the shows and get you caught up. So Saturday, you got Collision on TNT at 5 p.m. You had the Death Riders defeating Shane Taylor Promotions in a Cincinnati street fight. I like the fact that AEW is trying to bring up new stars and new talent, and Shane Taylor Promotions, consisting of Shane Taylor himself, Tiger Style, Lee Moriarty, and the Infantry, and the ladies as a part of the Shane Taylor Promotions. I like that they're trying to push them and push black wrestling, and they're a black wrestling faction. My brothers and sisters, I'm glad that they're finally getting a push to the main roster out of ROH. So on Mondays, you have Monday Night Raw on Netflix at 5 p.m. Oba Femi defeated Dominic Mysterio to advance in the King of the Ring tournament. Oba will face the winner of Jey Uso and Javon Evans at Night of Champions next Saturday. All right. So I'm sorry, next Sunday. All right. So NXT on the CW at 5 p.m. You had Lola Vice and Kendall Gray defeating Zarya and Kalani Jordan thanks to a distraction by Tatum Paxley. who basically jumped Zarya after the match. But also after the match, you had Lola Vice, who is preparing to defend her title against Kendall Gray. They had a face-off when Kaylani Jordan tried to grab the title away from Lola Vice, and Kendall Gray tried to snatch it back, but inadvertently hits Lola Vice with the title, knocking her out. So that's that. That's NXT. And then on Wednesday, you know what that means. It's AEW Dynamite on TBS at 5 p.m. You had the two teams that will be facing each other at Forbidden Door. Team DC MJF, that's Team Don Callis MJF, consisting of MJF himself, Andrade, the Jet Kevin Knight, who's newly a part of the Don Callis family. You had Jake Doyle, Kyle Fletcher, and Kazuchika Okada defeating Team Briscoe, which consisted of Mark Briscoe, Darby Allin, Takeshita, Orange Cassidy, Kyle O'Reilly, and Roderick Strong. They will actually face again at Forbidden Door, and stipulation is if Team Briscoe gets the win over Team MC MJF, Mark Briscoe gets a future title shot against MJF. So Thursday, you have Impact Wrestling, TNA's Impact Wrestling on AMC at 6 p.m. You had early in the main event was The System, Eddie Edwards, Bear Bronson, and Brian Myers defeating Moose and the Hardys. When Alicia Edwards, Eddie's wife, hits Moose with a kendo stick, and Eddie Edwards followed it up with a Boston Knee Party to pin Moose. Just to take note, the Righteous came down. Well, they didn't really come down to ringside, but they came out and kind of posted up on a ladder at the beginning of the rampway. And they tried to cause a distraction, but they were a minor inconvenience. So they will have a three-way title match for the TNA tag titles versus the Systems, Brian Myers and Bear Bronson, and the Hardys at Slammiversary on Sunday. Then you have Santana coming back out at the close of the show, and he calls out Nick Nemeth, who's been basically, every time they're in the ring together, he's been sneak attacking them after they're supposed to have been cooperating. So Nick Nemeth's brother, Brian Nemeth, comes out and starts talking about, my big brother's gonna beat you, my big brother's the best wrestler, big brother. And that kind of PO'd Santana even more. And finally, Nick Nemeth comes out and says Santana has made the most out of his 15 minutes of fame as TNA champion, and it's time for the title to go back to a real champion. And he's going to do that when they meet at Slammiversary on Sunday, which Santana got the audience to call Nick Nemeth nothing but a B.I. you know what. And the whole audience was chanting, you're a B, you're a B. So they will meet at Slammiversary on Sunday for the TNA title. Friday Night SmackDown. Man, that actually... Okay, so like I said, the main event is normally what you need to pay attention to, and it happens at the end. But this time, it kind of played out like a Saturday night's main event should be. So all of these episodes, if you go back, I talk about how Saturday night's main events have been lacking because the main event is normally first and something happens in the main event. So this episode of SmackDown played out like Saturday night's main event, and it's on Fridays on the USA channel at 5 p.m. So it started with an undisputed Universal Heavyweight title match, Cody versus Gunther, with Sami Zayn as a special guest referee picked by Gunther. Now, you thought that Sami Zayn, with how he's been going at it with Cody, was going to screw Cody and Gunther was going to become the new champion. That was not the case. Sami, although he was a bit harder on Cody with the breaks, he actually called the match down the middle, and both wrestlers, Cody and Gunther, got a little bit physical with Sammy, and Sammy, of course, gave pushback. But it wasn't until Gunther actually put his hands on Sammy that Sammy struck back, and basically Cody got the 1-2-3 pin, but Sammy counted it really fast in favor of Cody. So Cody came out of that match the winner and still champion. Everybody backstage was pissed, pretty much. Nick Aldis, Gunther, Cody, and then Sammy was yelling, saying, hey, they put their hands on me. What am I supposed to do? I called it down the middle. So Cody goes back to the ring and says, give me a referee because we're not going to do it like that. And I know it wasn't a fair win. So an actual WWE wrestler or an actual WWE ref comes down to the ring. Gunther comes back, so they restart the match. And during the restart, they exchange sleeper holds. Only Gunther has the better sleeper hold. And Gunther starts to get the best of Cody when Sami Zayn comes out and attacks Gunther. But that is because when they were backstage arguing, Gunther basically beat the heck out of Sammy and left him laying. And so Sammy wanted his lick back. And in that whole melee, of course, the second match was thrown out. And Sammy, basically dropped Gunther, dropped the referee that was in there to replace him, and grabbed the title and inadvertently hit Cody when Cody came up from behind him. So later on in the show, basically, that is going to turn into a three-way match for the undisputed Universal Championship at Night of Champions. So, the show that is, I'm going to have to give it to... Oh, I didn't even tell you what the main event was. The main event was Jey Uso beating Javon Evans in an epic match. So it will be Jey Uso facing Obafemi at Night of Champions. There was all kinds of matches. There was the tag title match. There was the women's qualifying match with Charlotte Flair and Liv Morgan. So that was a jam-packed episode of SmackDown. That's how you do a go-home... Well, it's not even a go-home episode. It's not even the week of the pay-per-view. So SmackDown over-delivered. So SmackDown, you're living your best week. When we come back, we're going to have Mott Sports West. Going to check out what you watching, and we're going to do a little food and travel.
Has bad credit been holding you back from getting a new car, a house, or a better job? Visit creditrepairfolks.com. They offer one-on-one consulting and will give you a personal roadmap to removing negative items and adding positive points to your credit score. The first consultation is free, and they're the only ones that offer a money-back guarantee. They also have payment plans available. So what are you waiting for? Visit creditrepairfolks.com today.
Our coaching did a horrible job. The players did a horrible job. We got our ass kicked.
That's the great thing about sports. You play to win. And I don't care if you don't have any wins.
All right, it's Mott Sports West, where we talk about the only three teams that matter. The teams on the West Coast, that's Lakers, Dodgers, and Rams. That's Lakers, Dodgers, and Rams. And without further ado, let's get into it. So, as reported this week on ESPN LA Radio by George Sedano, in an article by Dave McMenamin, Luka has been in touch with not only GM Rob Pelinka, but Coach JJ Redick about wanting to acquire an A-list center for next season, and that is his priority. Luka has also been in contact with Austin Reeves and LeBron James, according to the article, basically saying that he wants to keep playing with Austin and LeBron going forward. And of course, Austin and LeBron are scheduled to get paid this year. How much and by whom remains to be seen. There's been a lot of reports, LeBron possibly going to the Warriors. So that's up in the air. Austin is expecting a max deal at $240 million. The Nets are prepared to offer him 177. So we don't know. But as far as who the Lakers are actually acquiring at or looking to acquire at center, looks to be from the Pistons and the 76ers, looks to be Jalen Duren and Walker Kessler. So those two would be the best fit, and those two are who the Lakers are eyeing at center. So the Dodgers. Shohei Ohtani this week has been dealing with knee soreness, and a bloody hand blister has been limited in his play. Last night they beat the Orioles 6-5 in game 1 of a 3-game series. They play again today at 7:10 p.m. So we'll keep on watching for Shohei Ohtani, but I want to know what you watching. Oh, I forgot to mention, just the Rams. There was little to no news about the Rams. It was just that Sean McVay canceled minicamp, because you don't do too much in minicamp except for team building exercise. You don't really practice. So that's it. So anyway, I'm just real excited to get into From. It's in its 4th season. In case you don't know, it stars, I forgot his name, but if you watched Oz on HBO, he was the poet. The guy that played the poet, and he's been in several movies since, and I think he's actually going to be in Spider-Man A New Day, I think. So basically, he plays the quote-unquote sheriff of this town where people get trapped. They don't know where or when this town is, but basically people come here, get trapped, and they can't leave because if you try and drive out, it just loops you back into the town. So you cannot leave this town. And his backstory was explained last season, how he had to shoot his wife because the town got to her. But basically, this town is no good. This town is full of magic and people that turn into flesh-eating creatures that come out at night only, that hibernate and sleep during the day. So they have to watch their back at all times, and all this kind of stuff is going on. Don't want to spoil it, but like I said, it's in its 4th season, and just when you think it's almost hard to even spoil it, because after 4 seasons, we still really don't know what's going on in this town. We know bits and pieces here and there. This season, there's been a man in a yellow suit introduced. Apparently 2 of the characters have actually been to this town multiple times, have been reincarnated basically multiple times, and each time they're reincarnated, they end up in that town, and something's happening that they keep having to come back. So go ahead and check it out. It's on AMC, I want to say. It's called From. So check that out, because it's really got me hooked, and I want to see how this thing plays out. All right. So this week for travel, I traveled to Asia, so to speak. I tried Panda Express's new Cantonese barbecue chicken, and you could see my review and see what I thought about it right here. I gotta say, it went a little bit different than I expected from Panda. Like I said, check it out and see what I thought. And hopefully you'll think about checking back next week with me on the W.E.S.T podcast. See y'all.